All hail Biafra. This is Biafra Liberation Army Network coming to you again. Please like, share, and comment.
Fellow Biafrans, if you have been listening closely to the USB government and the cabinet, they've come with a new proposed policy known as the IHL. I will not speak on this much. I want our good brother to speak on this. But also, I would like to add that if it's possible, we should amend that IHL law to also include the abolishment of jungle justice in Biafra land. That's an animal instinct. Jungle justice must be abolished in Biafra land. Because I am sick and tired of seeing our brothers taking the life of somebody else because they stole a bicycle. They stole rice. They stole beans. They stole somebody's corn from the farm. They stole bread. They were suspected of being criminals. Suspected. Jungle justice must be something that must be abolished in Biafra land. It is barbaric, inhumane. And in Biafra land, we should not tolerate such. Nobody, no citizen has the right to take the life of somebody else. So I will speak on that at the end of a brief statement from our brother here. I believe he's a member of the USB cabinet. So the IHL is something that is welcomed. I appreciate the idea. I support the notion. And I think, that's the way we should be thinking going forward. Being, responsible in the actions we take. Our actions and inactions, the things you do and the things that you fail to do. So please listen to our brother and I'll come back. Listen, thanks to our sister, Progress the Analyst, for bringing up this video. I must say that she's doing a good job. Thank you to Progress Analyst for making a video on this. And I was like, wow, this is good. But also I was thinking we had to add the abolishment of jungle justice. Makobi one for the love of your brother. Jungle justice is the fabric where all this nonsense comes from. Because when they catch a Fulani terrorist, they keep him calm. They hand him over. Their brain, their senses know. They will hand them over to the government, the police, or the army. But when they catch their own brother, their own blood, their own kids and kin, they put fuel and matches on their body. They put a nail through their head. They put tire on their neck. But when they catch the Fulani, they pamper them. They don't beat them. They pamper them and take them to the police station. You see, sometimes that madness gets sense. Say, there is a level to your madness. When it's the Fulani, you respect them. But when it's your own, you are doing jungle justice. So please, to the USB government, I think I'll be calling for an amendment of this great, policy. The IHL is very, very good. It's a very good idea. It's a welcomed idea in Biafra land. That the men on ground during their, when they are carrying out their engagements, they should know their rules and regulations in carrying out their engagement. Let the zoo do what they are doing. We know the zoo, they are mad. Let the zoo government do what they are doing. But when they do it, we shall report them. But for us, we must follow the rules of engagement. Please listen to our brother here, and I'll come back. Listen.
That we've met, we've emphasized that the purpose of IHL is not to stop the combatants on the ground from doing what they think is necessary to do to free themselves and the homeland. It is not to teach them strategy of warfare. It is not to tell them that they are right or they are wrong. It is rather to let them know that no matter how justified your cause is, there are rules and regulations engaged in warfare. And those rules and regulations, if breached, the consequences will go far beyond they who are fighting on the ground to anyone that is involved in that struggle, whether it's within the top leadership or even without being in the leadership. But however, if breached, it is the impact, the negative impact it will have on the entire struggle of the people, no matter how legitimate and legal that struggle is, and no matter how justified they are in picking up arms to defend themselves. So the IHL is more like a referee, where there are two teams playing a football match. Without a central referee, there's going to be chaos. Anything can happen. People might be flying with their legs at the top and using the boots and doing all types of things. So there has to be someone who is there to regulate that match. The person is not going to score for any of the two sides, no matter that they are human beings and they have a way of thinking. But their goal is, listen, if you have to play one another, you have to win squarely, win fairly, do the best that you could. There could be errors that could come even from the referee, or in trying to implement some of the decisions made by the rules and regulations of that match. Errors could occur, but let them be errors. Let them not be conscious acts that people actually know that this thing is not okay, but they have to do it because maybe it's revenge killing, it's vengeance, and maybe it's time to use the struggle of the people to settle inter-family squabbles about farmland, about some old marital stuff, about some chieftaincy issue. That is not the job of the struggle. So those are the things why it is so vital to study IHL. For you, as a combatant, it is your life support. It is what protects you. If you don't only study it, you follow it to the letter, especially those who are working with you in your unit, to make sure they respect it. And know that every time you do that, you are not only protecting yourself and your unit, you are protecting the struggle in which you are involved in and you are sacrificing so much for. And you are equally protecting your leadership. Because they might not be on the ground at every second. They will not be there to give you command on what to do. But every action you take has grave consequences on their own very survival as individuals. So this is the way it goes. But not just on them, on your entire struggle. And anytime you put your struggle at the top of any other thing you do, then you must respect IHL. It doesn't stop you from fighting, but it regulates you on doing just what is necessary to be done. Not the things you are not supposed to do. Even if you have the means to do it, and the chance to do it, and the opportunity to do it, but they are not permitted by IHL, then you don't have to do it. There are some of you who might not have participated in this training up to this moment. So, in a nutshell, what is IHL? There is international human rights law, but what is IHL? And why was IHL brought about? As I said before, IHL is called International Humanitarian Law. That is actually the language which the United States and some other countries prefer to use. Then the United Kingdom prefer to use the words, the law of armed conflict, or the law of war. That is how they call it, LOW. Law of war, or the law of armed conflict. So internationally, the word is IHL, International Humanitarian Law. So the question is always this, what is IHL? We know they are all. IHL comes from the various Geneva Conventions. But IHL, in a nutshell, is simple. IHL is the basic international law which tells you the do-nots, the things you must not do in the course of war. IHL does not come to tell you that this one is what you should do. It's not there to train you on your strategy. It is just there to tell you, listen, we don't care the justification of your war. We don't care how right it is. We don't even care whether you are wrong. All what we are saying is that in the course of this war, there are things you must not do. You must not condone rape. Even if you yourself do not participate in rape, you take advantage of young girls around the community and think that because you're with it, you can rape anyone. It is totally forbidden. It's a war crime. You must not take advantage to say, oh, because we want to eat goat. Any goat you see in the community, you catch, you kill. That is theft. And through IHL is banditism. That's armed banditism. You can't do that. You cannot also take, for example, decide to attack medical practitioners because you just say that, oh, this person like this is carrying this bag, maybe he's a spy for X or Y, and then you decide to kidnap the person or you decide to attack them or attack a hospital. No, you can't do that. There are symbols that must be respected, and there are rules and regulations on how those who carry those symbols must also behave themselves. That is why IHL is not only for you as a combatant, it is also for you as a combatant to teach IHL to the communities in which you belong. If, for example, you are not somewhere in seclusion, very far off, you are within a community, for the good of those you are with and for the community, you need to teach them IHL. Because civilians have their own part to play. They are normally caught on crossfire. There are times when the action of a civilian puts them at risk. In other words, the action of the action of a civilian can put the civilian in the same position as the enemy. When you study IHL, it is there, it is clear. If a civilian does a particular thing, that civilian symbol on that individual is taken away, and that individual now becomes part of the enemy camp. So if civilians don't know they put themselves at risk, then the consequences is terrible. So there are so many things that you are supposed to not do in the course of war. You are not supposed to conduct kidnapping. You are supposed to target just the enemy. That is why they keep talking about military targets. No matter what you do, that is the area you target. If, for example, the military is in an area, as you listen, you heard what they talk of, the principle of proportionality. The principle of proportionality is very simple, well explained. Is that in the course of war, take for example, the military might be encircled on a Sunday and there's a church service going on, or on a normal day and there is a service going on inside the church like a choir practice. And 5 or 6 of the military people ran into the church. And your unit is aware they have run into the church. And you ask yourself the question, what do we do? Should we just set fire on this church? Put explosives and bomb the area? Take into consideration that not just the 5 or 6 who have escaped into the church might be wounded or will die, but even the civilian population that is in the church that you are not even aware of how many are there, especially if there are even children there. So you are now looking at the principle of proportionality. How are you going to react? So you have to weigh it. It is the same issue of the principle of the military decision you have to take. And that is where the difficulties come in. So you have to weigh it and ask yourself. Now the next question is not just that they escape if they escape into the church and they start using the church as an area to open fire at your own position, what do you have to do? That is a question you need to ask yourself. Because definitely you need to defend yourself. They are shooting at you from the church. And knowing fully well that there are civilians inside the church. So that is where the issue of proportionality comes in. What are you going to do? Are you still just going to say because they are inside the church and they are shooting at us, we are just going to raid down this entire church and kill everybody? That is where the issue of proportionality comes in, and then you need to ask yourself, no, you need to weigh the pros and the cons. You could decide to allow them to waste their bullets, and you wait for a vantage position for them to come out.
Pros and cons, but we all know that the Zoo government, that's what they would do. But we are not Nigeria. We are far away off from being Nigerians. We are now Biafrans. But we all know that Nigeria would do such. But let's continue. I'll come back. Let's continue. Listen.
Knowing fully well that if you have to carry out action, the casualties are going. These are not civilians who are involved in the war. The fighting group or the military that has moved into that church premises have transformed that place into a theater of war. They have committed an act against IHL. They have breached international humanitarian law by using a church premises, a faith-based ground, as an area for them to use to cover themselves to attack the enemy. They have breached that law. Are you also going to breach the law by attacking the entire building because you want to kill them and kill every other person that is in it? That is where the issue of proportionality comes in. That is where you have to think as a commander, as the head of a unit on what do we do at this stage? How are we going to operate? Strategy comes in place. So those are the type of things IHL is there to teach you, to tell you, listen, you have the right to defend yourself. That is not our concern. Our concern is that there are things you are not supposed to do. They are the do's and the do not. That we are here to tell you, with IHL, don't do this. Don't do this. We are not going to tell you what you have to do. Definitely you know that if IHL is saying that you don't have the right to rape, you automatically understand that you have the right to respect civilian population, especially women and children. I will not teach you just that, but that is the meaning of it. Don't take advantage that because you are armed and you can go into the community and you start terrorizing your own people, which of course definitely are going to be your own last line of defense. That is definitely what is going to happen. So that is the purpose of IHL, and that is what we've been handling for a couple of months now in the other sessions that we have.